Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Chromebook Classroom. Today, I am very excited because we have a special guest. It's not just MTech that is excited about our brand new teacher Chromebooks in our classrooms. I have with me the one, the only, the amazing Monica from our science team. Good morning, Monica.
Good morning. So excited to be here.
And so tell us a little bit about who you are for anybody out there that doesn't know yet.
So my name is Monica Postero. I am one of two secondary science consultants with Learning Services. So this is my second year in the position, and I am so excited to share with you some different ways to teach the more complex concepts that we find within the sciences.
And I think that's so important to understand because I think there can be a temptation when there's complex concepts, we teach it with very low level on the Bloom's taxonomy. A lot of that knowledge, memorization, those types of pieces where really we have to build that memory. We have to build those concepts in our students' minds. And so you have a little bit of brain science for us before we actually get to the technology piece of it.
Absolutely. So often when it comes to sciences, especially in secondary or in high school, we see those like fill in the blank notes. So I'm challenging teachers to maybe step away from the fill in the blank notes and use two different processes. So introduce the concept of mind mapping with their students in addition to the concept of dual coding. So when we think about mind mapping, normally what we think about is something like this. So we have our key idea, our key focus, our key concept in the middle, and then we see branches coming off of our mind map. Now this is fantastic, but we're going to take this mind map and we are going to go and take it to the next level. So we're going to take these words, these key concepts, but now we're going to go and introduce images, visuals, and color in order to help create multiple pathways for retrieval. So the effectiveness of this process really lies in the fact that by just focusing on key concepts and use of visuals and images, we go and reduce distraction, confusion, and it helps students manage that cognitive load. In addition, it's really useful for helping students organize information in a non-hierarchical way. So this again allows greater transfer into our long-term memory.
Well, that's so exciting. This is so good. Monica, I like how you're doing this because the thing is, it's not just about the webbing. It's taking that concept of students constructing their understanding and tagging it with some color and some things that they've made in their mind. This is not, can I say, this is not just exclusive to high school science. We could use this idea for any scientific diagramming we want to do, right?
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go and we see our typical mind map, and I'm going to show you the Jamboard that I created for students for Bio 20 specifically. So in Bio 20, there's a unit, photosynthesis, cellular respiration. A lot of students find this really, really difficult because it does really integrate quite a bit of chemistry. So I'm taking this concept, which normally fill in the blank notes I feel is used, and we're going to go through part of the process showing you how you can teach these concepts using Jamboard.
Well, and for anyone out there who's new to Jamboard, you're like, Jam what? Jamboard is a free Google app, part of our education suite, where we can create a whiteboard with several frames. And we can use things like ink, images, sticky notes, text, shapes, anything you need to be able to create in a Jamboard. What's lovely is I'm not stuck at the front of the room. I can be on my teacher Chromebook with this. Now, here's a little tech hack for you. I'm going to throw in those little tech tidbits while Monica is showing this amazing technique. Remember, you can be on your teacher computer, your teacher desktop computer with your Jamboard open on your large screen display. On your teacher Chromebook with your touch screen that you have, you can be in the same Jamboard again, and anything you do there will be happening on the big screen.
Fantastic. So what I've just done is I've opened up the Jamboard that I've created for photosynthesis specifically. So I have it right now on my screen, but I'm also going to pull it up on my Chromebook because I'm going to be using my Chromebook to ink on top of the slides that I've created in Jamboard. All right, so now I have the presentation located on two screens. So what I've done is I've started off, and I would start my lesson by just introducing the topics of photosynthesis, cellular respiration. I myself am a visual learner, so this method really works for me. So I always start my lessons off by including an organizer, allowing students to kind of see the big picture of what we're going to be talking about for the next week, 2 weeks, however long it takes you to get through that particular unit. So in order to create a Jamboard, it's actually quite simple. So you open up Jamboard through your Google, and then you can start inserting text and inserting images. So I'm going to take you through the process of inserting text and inserting an image.
So you would go to jamboard.google.com, or you can go to your Google Drive, choose New, and go down to More, and you'll see Google Jamboard. Once you have it open like this, you'll be starting on a blank frame, but you'll notice on the left-hand side, one simple menu with everything that you can do. And you're going to show us that text and images first, right, Monica?
Absolutely. All right, so here's my slide right here, but what about if I want to go and include a slide now just providing an overview of photosynthesis? So I do have 8 slides already created in this presentation, but all I would do is I would go and then I press the plus sign, and now I have a blank frame. So this is a blank frame where I'm going to show you how you can go and insert text and also how you can go and insert an image. All right, so if you go and you've clicked on the arrow, you'll notice that I have all of the frames for my photosynthesis presentation located here. All I did is I clicked on the plus, and then here is my new blank frame. So I'm going to go and I'm going to start by adding a title. So as I had mentioned, I'm going to say, well, let's look at photosynthesis. Let's look at the big picture of what photosynthesis is going to look like once we're done this process. So again, you have all of the tools located here on the left-hand side. Sorry, I need to look at my screen. There we go. And we're going to hit the text box. And then once I have my text box up, this beautiful shows up, and I'm going to go and type mind map overview.
You'll notice at the top, you have a little bit of control, technical control. You can change the size of your font from normal to title to any of those different pieces that you want. You can justify it, and of course, be able to change the color.
Absolutely. So I am going to actually go and switch it. So this is going to be a display. So I'm going to go make it nice and large. There we go. And I'm going to expand my text box so it's all in one line. There we go. So what I really like about Jamboard is the fact that I have access to some high quality images through Google. So I'm going to show you how, rather than recreating, I'm actually going to just be taking an image from Google search. So if we go again, we're going to go to the left-hand side, and now we're going to hit the image button. There it is. Okay. Now here we have a series of options in terms of how we can go and retrieve our image. I'm going to use the Google image search button. And here I'm going to look for photosynthesis. And I have all of these images in which to select from. So I'm looking specifically for a mind map. I've already done this, so I love this image. I've already previewed it. So I'm going to click. I'm going to hit insert.
How easy is this? And you know what's great about those images? Whenever you search for an image within one of the Google apps, they are already Creative Commons copyright-free images that you can use for education. So we don't have to worry about those usage rights when it comes to these types of images.
Yeah, so I've already previewed this image. I think it is fantastic. It is your typical mind map, but it does show the connections between the two different processes that we're going to be talking about. So both photosynthesis and then cellular respiration. So now that I've inserted this slide, let's talk about dual coding. And the use of images in order to teach this concept. So I have created this slide deck of some things that I would talk to the students about prior to actually going into the drawing process. So I'd say, well, this is what we think photosynthesis is like up until this point, but did you know photosynthesis is actually looking like this? And then I would go and talk about, well, where does photosynthesis occurs? Everyone understands that it occurs in the leaf, but what part of the leaf? And most students would be like, oh, the chloroplast. And then I would go like, did you know that there are parts of the chloroplast? So I actually would pull up this image, I would speak to it. I can actually ink on top of it if I would like. So I can go and I can do things like, well, for part one of photosynthesis, I would select my pen.
So just from that left-hand side menu. So you're actually on your Chromebook doing this. That's why we don't see it on your
Yeah.
teacher screen right now. You're selecting the pen on your teacher Chromebook so that you can use a stylus or your finger to ink. And we're going to see it happen on imagine this was your smartboard display in your classroom.
Absolutely. So part one of photosynthesis is my light-dependent reaction. Well, I'd say the light-dependent reaction occurs on this part of the chloroplast, so the thylakoid. So I then talk about how we consider the thylakoid to be the structural unit of photosynthesis. It is where light energy is captured, and we start that process of undergoing photosynthesis to produce our sugars.
This is awesome. Okay, and one more thing about Jamboard I've got to say, because I'm getting very excited as a teacher, because just like I would have made something perhaps in a traditional SlideShare presentation, I'm simply putting those same things in Google Jamboard. I can also assign this in the Google Classroom, and I can even make a copy for each student already in there with a space for all of my teacher resources, as well as a place for student work, correct?
Absolutely. So part one of photosynthesis. So as you can see, it is definitely more than just an equation. And this is just part of it. So what I would do now as a Bio 20 teacher is I would start to talk my way through this process and inking over top of each of these slides. So I would start by saying, well, we have a photon of energy come in from the sun, and it's going to go and hit the reaction center of chlorophyll within this first particular system, which is known as photosystem 2. That light energy is used to excite an electron, and that electron gets transferred out of the photosystem into our first electron transport system. And then I would continue teaching, and then I would talk about photolysis down here. And I'm just using my finger, so it's not showing up, unfortunately, super clear. I could use a stylus to make it my printing a little bit better, but we would go and we now would ink on top of our image. And I would continue to teach this concept until we're done our first part of photosynthesis. Now, this is where dual coding would actually come into play. So Trish has been my wonderful student. She has heard all about how my photon of energy has come and hit this first photosystem known as photosystem 2. She's heard about photolysis, which means we take light and we split up water to produce oxygen, which is released back into the atmosphere to replenish the electron that has now gone through photosystem 2 and to start concentration gradient of hydrogen ions. So she absorbed all of that energy in the past 15 seconds. Now we're going to talk about retrieval practices. So what I would do is I would go and say, hey, Trish, on a new slide, I want you to tell me, to show me what you remember from what I just discussed.
So now here is where the students, because I took this Jamboard, I put it in my Google Classroom, I made a copy for each student. Not only do I get your notes, I can see you building understanding. I, as a student, could also mimic and build that understanding on mine. But I have a workspace now where instead of making a mind map, I'm taking the same concept of color and inking, but I'm actually just rebuilding that diagram with what I remember. But you have another neat step where we're going to go back and I'm going to be looking at that diagram and adding another color for anything that I forgot, correct?
Absolutely. So what I would say, so let's say that this is Trisha's drawing. So she remembered that she has this photon of energy. It's hitting this first photosystem, which is photosystem 2. And that energy excites an electron, and that electron gets transferred out of photosystem 2. And that electron needs to be replenished. So then you have a process, and it had something to do with water, but I don't remember what. So this is where Trish would go, and she would go back to the original slide, and she'd be like, oh, water. So that water splits into oxygen, hydrogen, and the electrons to replenish. So then she would go back and selecting a different colored pen, she would add in what she forgot. So she remembered that water split, but she didn't remember to water split into what? So it would split into hydrogen ions, which are going to be used later on, creating a concentration gradient within the thalcoid. It created those electrons, which are going to be used to replenish the electrons that just left photosystem 2. And it also produced oxygen that gets released into the atmosphere. So anything that she forgot, she would add in using a different color. So we're using color to help and reinforce those retrieval practices. And it's been shown that students actually remember the colors that they use when they think back to the image. So they'll remember the blue and then they'll remember the red.
And what I love about this is a free, easy tool. We already have this within our Google Workspace for education, and it's simply using it in another way. This is powerful because not only was this a great teacher instructional tool for you to create this understanding and demonstrate for students, but this is a student demonstration of learning tool. My mind is racing because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, a student could screen record while they're creating their drawing, just like you did, and verbally describe it. I'm thinking of every scientific diagram I've had to make. I could be creating phases of the moon, parts of the flower, life cycles of animals, space and earth sciences. Like, I could insert any type of even real picture instead of clip art and have students diagram and build their understanding. This is a real powerful scientific tool. I think this is like brain science meets teaching science, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Monica, for showing us here today. Monica has created this Jamboard for us. It'll be available for you below this video. Grab a link, make a copy. And even if you are not teaching, Bio 20, Chapter 5, remember it's the concept that you can apply this brain science, this inking and these images to any of your Jamboards to teach science. Monica, I look forward to doing more of these with you.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.